Hello everyone, it's Carrie, and today I have a really fun technique to share with you. In fact, it's one of my favorites. I have this background called Barnwood Background by Concord and Ninth, and I used it on this card here. I used it with some Distress Oxides to stamp that out, and that's been one of my favorite wooden backgrounds. And there's also this paper on the right that I really like too, but today I wanted to make a long wood plank background for my card. So I'm going to show you just how to do this. It is so fun and so easy, and it always turns out great every time I do this. I'm using my Martha Stewart scoring board here, and it comes with its own bone folder. I also have this bone folder, but today we're going to use this stylus. It's got a ball tip on the end, and this is what I found works best for making the wood planks, for making the detail. This gray cardstock is actually really thick. It's 110-pound gray cardstock, and I'm scoring about every inch here on the cardstock, and I'm just making sure to press down enough so that it shows up. Then I'm going to turn it to make the actual different planks. And I just am kind of experimenting with how long that these planks are. I ended up really liking about 3 inches. So every 3 inches or so, I would make a line. And that just shows the different wooden planks here. It's simple enough to do. And there is the beginning of our wood plank background. Now I have this Simon Says stamp white pigment ink. It's brand new, so I'm just opening it now. But I have that little small square up there too that I have been using. I like it better with a full ink pad. As you can see, I'm just swiping it over the top of the wood planks. Now don't get scared, because at first it looks a little bit questionable at best. And so you see, but we're not done, because now we're going to take this Distress Oxide ink. But before we do that, I decided that I really need to heat set this just a little bit. So before we use that Distress Oxide, I did take my heat tool, I heat set it, and here we have one of my favorite colors of Distress Oxides. And I'm just going to swipe that across, and then I'm going to take the little sponge from the bottom and just kind of smooth it out a little bit here and there. I like to keep these on the bottom of my Distress Oxide so that they each have their own little tool or their own little sponge. And here you can see it's kind of coming together, starting to look a little bit like weathered wood. Ironically enough, that's not the color of this Distress Oxide. In fact, it's the iced spruce. And it truly is one of my favorite Distress Oxide colors. So here you can see that it is coming together, and I have this Prismacolor pen in gray. It's a light gray, and I'm just going to take it and outline where the grout lines would be. If this was a wood tile or if there's with darker edges. And it's very faint. You can see that it's going to dry back a little softer than when I first put it down. So I'm going to go over a few of those lines just a little bit more. I found that the impressions in the wood planks were deep enough that I didn't need to use a ruler, but you can use a ruler if you want to make sure you get those lines straight. And that's fine too. I have done that in the past. So now I'm going to show you how I put this card together. This is some Ranger embossing powder in watering can, and I want to use that on this porthole die cut. So I'm taking some Versamark sticky ink, and I'm just using a piece of scrap paper to kind of press it in to that embossing pad, and then I'm going to take my tweezers and pour that watering can embossing powder right over the top, and I'll heat set that. And I actually do this a couple of times to build it up. It gives it more of a 3D effect and really is kind of nice. So I'm going to heat set that, and I'll speed this up just a little bit because it's hard to really tell what's happening here. But I did put a couple of layers on there. And then when I held it up against the gray wooden plank background, I decided that it's a little dark. So instead I'm going to pull out some silver embossing powder and put that right over the top. And as I did this, I heat set that as well, and I found that it was just a little too new and a little too silvery to be on a pirate ship. And so I did add a couple of layers of that silver embossing powder, and now I'm going to show you a trick for aging anything that you have that is embossed that you want to look a little bit aged. So I have my Nouveau spoon here. I use this a lot for glitter, for embossing powder, for all kinds of things, and it's going to work perfectly for this trick that I have next. So I'll show you, it's just like before. I'm going to push it into that Versamark ink, and then I'm going to spoon on a little bit of the watering can darker embossing powder here and there, just a little bit, to add a little vintage look, or actually make it look more distressed, a little bit older, so it wasn't so new looking. I hope you can tell in real life, you can really tell that it does add some aging to this porthole. I'm going to hold this up for you, so hopefully you can see that a little better. Not so new, not so silvery anymore. Still has that metallic look, but a little bit older. So that's kind of a fun technique. Now I'm going to take the little fish and I'm going to ink it up with some distress inks. I'm using carved pumpkin as the first layer, and then I'll go over it a little bit with abandoned coral to give it some more color, a little more depth, more interest. And I'm going to keep these colors out because I will be using that a little bit later as well. So there, that's going to look really cute. So now I have these anchors that are also from the stamp set that this little Brentwood Owl came from, the Pirate Owl. These anchors are really cute and fun to color, and I colored up a couple of them. And I'm going to take a little bit of brown cording here. This is hemp cord that I had in my stash, and I'm going to attach them through the porthole, but attach them together. And I had this idea to kind of make the cording go around in a little circle and then join those two anchors together. And I'm going to show you a little trick for doing just that. But here I'm just going to cut it down because I cut a little bit too long of a cording. So to color up the large sentiment, I had to use 3 different large sentiments because I found I didn't have a die cut that was large enough that I wanted. I had this vision of the size of letters that I wanted. So I used those ones that I showed you there to kind of build my sentiment. Sometimes you have to be a little creative when you're working on cards. Am I right? Work with what you have. So now I'm going to use some glue dots to make sure that cording is secure to the anchors so it doesn't come apart, so that when I loop this cording, it's going to stay right on. And here's another trick I have to share with you. I found that if you use the Ranger Multi-Medium Matte, you can use that with your fingers and you can add it to any cording, any ribbon, and it will make it a little more stiff, and also it will glue it to your page. So it's kind of works twofold. It's really great. I'm going to put a little behind the porthole there too, and then I will attach that to the card, and I'll put an acrylic block over the top so that it can dry like that. Because I want it to look just like that. I want it to stay in that little loop-de-loop there. So while that is adhered, I'm going to attach the sentiment with some glue, liquid glue. And I'm kind of making these a little skiwampus here. And the reason is because the letters weren't exactly the same size. But that's okay, right? I mean, you wouldn't even know if I didn't tell you, right? I mean, a little bit you can tell. So I'm going to stick the rest of the sentiment up with some 3M foam tape. And it says, "Shiver me timbers, I hear it be ye birthday." Oh my gosh, I cannot even do a pirate impression. I'm going to have a guest voiceover artist come in and try that again.
"Arr, shiver me timbers, I hear it be your birthday."
That's good. Okay, that was my husband, and he is so much better at impressions than I am. But back to the card. You saw that I went ahead and attached that owl with some 3M foam tape, and now I'm using some liquid glue to attach the little seaweed and the fish. And we're almost done here. I'm going to finish it off with some of these Nuvo drops. And I like to do some of these ahead of time and allow them to dry overnight, lots of colors, so that I can experiment on my cards to see if I'm going to like it first before I commit. So luckily I had some gray and a blue here. These are the transparent drops that I used, and I'm just going to attach those with some liquid glue to finish off this card, and I'll attach it to a top folding card, and that is our project here. Oh, but I did forget. I have one last thing I want to do to finish off the porthole. I am going to attach some of these Nuvo drops. These are the crystal drops in liquid mercury color, and I'm going to attach that everywhere there is a little hole, and that'll just give it a little more detail. Such a super fun card. I attach it to a top folding card, as I said. Here's my 2 cards that I've made with this set with this little Brentwood Owl. So cute. I hope you enjoyed these projects today and that I inspired you to try some wood plank background of your own, and maybe some of these other ideas that I shared as well. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my husband's impression, give me 2 thumbs up. Well, I don't even know if you can do that. Maybe just a comment. Here are a few more videos that you might be interested in. For more information, please visit my blog, and I hope I see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.